let me show you how they come. Now, I've already mounted them up, so I just pulled one off my gun so that you can see it. But let me show you the box. And here's the first thing that impressed me, besides just that it's a really nice box, but that doesn't matter, is what they give you. So they don't leave you lacking for anything. So first off, you get a neoprene cover to put over the scope if you want. So that's scope cover option number 1 that comes with the scope. Scope option number 2 is a set of simple plastic covers, and if you've seen any of my cleaning videos, especially over on Patreon, you know that I keep a set of these on my bench or in my reloading box, and these go just right over my scope if I'm cleaning, so that there's nothing else in the way, but I'm still protecting it from accidentally poking it or getting solvents on the scope. So I really like those. Then they include, where are they? These Tenebrax covers, and you know, these are like, I don't know, 60, 80 bucks for these covers, and they are really nice covers. Now, you're probably saying, well, why don't you use them on your scope then? Well, here's the problem I have. I tend to use a pretty low mount. I try to keep the objective as close to the barrel as possible, and this is a threaded mount, and it just gets a little difficult to install it. And then if I need to take it off for some reason, it's just a little tough. So I've been playing with this off and on, trying to figure out what to do. But again, they're fantastic covers, and you would normally spend another, I want to say they're like 60, 70, 80 bucks. But they're really high quality. One of the nice things is you can tighten them down, and then they rotate on the mount, so you can center up where you want this. So if you get it tightened on and you decide you want the flap to come over to, you know, 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, that's great. If you want it to go straight up, you can turn it. So it really gives you a lot of adjustability on where you want your flap. Like, I know some guys who will mount this to their scope, right? So if it's on your scope, what they'll do is they'll turn it over here, so that when it flips open, it almost acts like an eye block for them. Or they'll mount some information. You know, you can print out little cards to put, you know, your distance, come up, stuff like that. So you can do different things with where you want to mount these Tenebrax covers, which I think is a fantastic value. You get some of the other obligatory stuff that a lot of scopes come with. You get the little lens pen, which is pretty common, and obviously they do supply a battery, which we'll get into more. Why do I need a battery? So let's talk about the scope. Well, all I can tell you is that I think this is a really great hidden gem of a scope. I think for people who maybe want a step up from, you know, like a Golden Eagle or an SV3, you know, maybe they, you know, don't want to necessarily go with a Night Force or a Callus or something like that. I think this is an amazing scope. I don't feel embarrassed putting it on my gun. You know, there's a lot of ego with scopes sometimes, you know, oh, I shoot at this, I shoot at that. I don't care. I want something that's going to be clear. I want it to be crisp. I want it to track well. And I want the reticle to be great. So that gets us to the reticle. I'm going to show you some video. I actually shot it a little bit earlier, so I'm not going to pretend like I'm going to set it up now. But what I did is I threw it in my home gun vise over here, and we're just looking about 20, 30 yards away down my hallway into my living room. It's really bad weather. It's been snowing out here. But I really wanted to get you guys a good view. Now, you are looking at it as I would look at it. So this is not an adapter of any kind. This is literally the camera on a mount behind the scope as though it were your eyeball. And, you know, there could be a little bit of focus in and out just because of the camera trying to figure out what it's looking at, but I think this will give you a really good idea. So we're going to look at the lit reticles in red and green. We're going to look at a regular reticle, and then we're going to look at it up against a target. You know, is this an ideal situation, like out on a range or something? No, but I think this is going to give you a really good idea of what the reticle looks like. All right, this is about the best I can get you on the reticle with it lit up. So this is the red, and now there's 5 settings for each color. This happens to be, what are we on here? This is 5, so this is the brightest. And then you can see in between each setting, like I showed you, you turn it off, and then we come over to green. So that's what green looks like. And supposedly the green is better for daylight use, and the red is better for nighttime use. So that's sort of how I use it. And I'll explain more once we're not looking through the reticle here. And then, I know it's hard to see, but let me go remove, I'm looking against a black background so that you guys get the best possible view of the reticle. And let me show you. There's 4, there's 3, there's 2, which is barely visible, and 1 is almost, I mean, impossible to see unless it's pitch black. But I will say, when it's, I usually shoot on like 3 or 4. 5 is pretty bright, but it's great for the video here. Anyway, let me go remove that, and then we can look at the black hash mark. Now, here we have just the standard black reticle against a white background, and this is not ideal conditions, but at least you can see it's the same reticle. Now, that's just this plain white background. Let me go throw a target up there real quick so you can see. And keep in mind, run indoor conditions, so it's a little tougher, but hopefully this gives you a good idea. Okay, this is going to be dark because, again, I'm indoors, and I do have the magnification turned down, but it's still pretty dark. But this is a really great example of times where this is like, you're not missing anything. The reticle's there, you just can't really see it. Now watch if I turn on the lit reticle. Boom, there it is. Off, on, and then of course there's green. So you can see what an advantage it is. Now, you're not going to use it all the time, but you know, I really like having it. It's sort of one of those like safety buttons that you have at all times, so that if you ever need something to be lit, and again, we could turn it on a lot lighter if we just need a faint hold off, or a bit brighter, or even brighter, or green, or whatever, right? So here's the lighter greens. And, you know, you're looking at this through a camera, through a scope. It's even better in person. But, you know, I just wanted to show you guys that aspect of it.